and that will give us more possibilities for resolving it. What we see mostly are memory problems and some difficulty carrying out daily activities. Not much. That there's a problem with concentrating, difficulty in carrying out several tasks at once, and it's only the person who can notice this. And what we often will find, it can be short-term or intermittent, only during moments of fatigue, or it can be something that lasts, and when we do neuropsychological tests, we'll show them up. And where the controversy comes in, and there have been a number of studies, and the results can't be generalized, because you look at all of the breast cancer population, but in many studies, there were too much bias that led to the study tending to show one result or another due to bias. And the results are difficult to reproduce sometimes and not conclusive, but there's often within areas that come together, so it's difficult to define and to interpret this data. There haven't been a lot of tumor sites studied. We can't generalize either. But by trying to define this problem, at some point, we will see that women who have been treated with chemotherapy, we can put an asterisk on them saying that they can't carry out delicate work because they're going to have the after effects or side effects of the chemotherapy, etc. And this is the danger that we face up with. So because it is a real problem, and we need to find means to relieve it. And there's a study where we carried out imagery or MRI or different types of tests. And in these studies are only been done in a very sporadic fashion. Happily, there are groups of investigators that are carrying out studies that should be ending over the next 3-4 years. And those will give us means to better define. And these ongoing studies will will involve neuropsychological tests. Studies, over 150 tests that are available, and with different levels of subtlety. One test perhaps will be better than another to study different aspects of the condition. And the investigators themselves sometimes difficulty finding the proper tools and the good set of tests. And some things is looking at short-term things like verbal memory, concentration, the speed of processing and integrating different aspects together. So the studies that have been carried out are mostly directed towards the breast cancer population, shows a pretty widespread incidence of mild cognitive defect, and this is, can't say that it's close to 100% of women that have received chemotherapy. So I think that this should not lead to discrimination. We have to see whether there's a difference. The different types of chemotherapy up until now with CMS, which is often used for breast cancer, seem to have a stronger effect. We seem to have a higher level of this type of problem. There's a study just beginning, Taxol, and different agents that are used a lot. And it's a very early study. There are no conclusions as of yet. With patients that take tamoxifen, the anti-estrogen, which is used a lot for breast cancer. And it's beginning to be used for ovarian cancer patients as well. And there's contradictory studies Yes, the problem seems to become worse. The chemo brain or chemo fog is exaggerated, but some people say no. The neuropsychological tests show um, improvement. So there's a debate going on in this aspect. Is there a gene that would make it more likely or have to show chemo brain effect? And basic researchers are just beginning to look at this. Perhaps there's a gene somewhere that perhaps for people who carry this gene could favor the appearance of this type of problem. As you can see, there are a lot of incognitives here still. But when we talk about prevention strategies, if we have some time, we can also look at methodologies that we will be able to use before we can conclude that this problem is present. You say that, we'll go down to prevention strategies. People have tried to say if we use erythropoietin, for example, with placebo, can we decrease this element? We weren't able to find any difference. With these different agents, you have to be very prudent. These agents, you have to make sure they can't contribute to tumor progression. So we can't give just any medication. We have to make sure there aren't any other impacts that would be more serious. The patients that took the product had higher hemoglobin and less fatigue. And could the fatigue then, lack of fatigue, be helpful? And that in respect to it's important to keep in mind that this exists, and it's important to organize strategies to help us manage this better. There are going to be many things that are going to be attacking us. We can't go into a bubble where we'll be safe from everything. We have to come up with mechanisms that compensate strategies to give a better quality of life. A patient who was been treated with chemotherapy and was trying to avoid emergency situations or situations that needed to be an octopus and try and do 8 things at once. So she tried to put herself in calmer situations. She had decreased her work hours, and she made lists everywhere to make sure she wouldn't forget things. That this is something that happens to everybody as the years pass, but this was a way that she tried to be able to participate in her life and not to feel that she was in a fog. So I think it's important to recognize this possibility that this problem can exist, and not to make it a reason for discrimination for women who have been treated with chemotherapy. And not everybody will suffer from this, but we still have to come up with solutions. And research is ongoing for this mild cognitive defect that is associated with chemotherapy.